Hey everyone, I'm Nishagni and this is Nishagni Tarot, where you receive inspired insights to create an empowered life. So, welcome. It's been a while since I dropped my last video, and I thought I'd just come in and talk to you about a couple of decks that have been keeping me company while I've been MIA from YouTube, and which have been really, extremely good for my mental health and for my general well-being. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at three oracle decks that are excellent affirmation decks. So for those of you who don't know what affirmation decks are, so affirmations are basically these positive sayings, positive phrases that you tell yourself so that you are empowered. So a lot of times what happens to us is that we are disempowered in our lives because of either personal experiences in our own familial lives, or because of judgment by society, and or the general, just the atmosphere of how COVID-19 and all the lockdowns and everything has just got us down. So affirmation decks really make us feel good about ourselves. They give us a message of hope, and they allow us to focus on the positive things in life. And yes, while there are things called of toxic positivity, affirmation decks really allow us to not get into the negative mindsets or really debilitating mindsets that can make us pessimistic, or sort of sink us into a very emotionally charged and weakened and vulnerable state. So, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about three affirmation decks that are absolutely stunning to work with and which are my personal favorites. So, let's get started. So, I'm just going to move out the first two decks and I'm going to show you the first one. So this deck is the Affirmators Oracle deck, or the Affirmators Affirmation cards. So Affirmators is a company or is a brand. You may have heard of the Affirmators Tarot, and this Oracle deck is one of the first decks that they have. So this deck is actually a generic deck, wherein the messages are all about about various facets of life and general affirmations. But they also have specific cards for family, for business, for self-love, and so on. So you get this one, how to use this deck card, which is really good. And then you have these beautiful affirmator cards. So you have this little cute image, and then you have a write up that is really funny and really insightful at the same time. So the affirmators cards really focus on, you know, giving us these affirmations in a very humorous manner, wherein they tackle really difficult subjects, but they do so in a funny way, wherein you kind of, you don't take the joy out of looking at life, and it kind of makes you realize that there are ways to look at even the worst situations in a positive light. So it's an amazing deck. The size wise, it's actually a pretty wide deck, and you can easily put it up on your card stand, and then just I'm just quickly going through some of the cards. So it's a really I find this deck to be very pleasant to work with. It always brings a smile to my face whenever I'm especially sad, and yeah. So you can definitely, and it's not just the wordings that have really funny write up, but even the drawings that you find here are really good. Like, for example, over here, look at the mouse and its shadow. That's so insightful. But also the write up, see, no one is fearless, no one, but even though I'm not fearless, I am courageous. When fear shows up, I don't run away from it. I use my courage to conquer it. My courage allows me to walk right up to that fear and kick it in the nuts, and then quickly hide behind someone bigger until it goes away. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck, and it's just super, super hilarious, right? And this is basically how the affirmators deck works. And apart from these affirmations, you also have these cards, which are considered these superpower cards or supercharged affirmations, which are you could use them as a sort of action card, for example, and then you can use the other affirmators to condition your mind towards, let's say, manifestation. And if you're a magical practitioner, you can use these cards for your spell works, and you can really sort of hone in on the area of your life that you need to focus on right now. So I really enjoyed this deck, and I would heartily recommend this to you. If you are new to the Affirmators tarot deck, or I'm sorry, Oracle deck, I would recommend that you pick up this generic one first, and then you choose the other, whether whether it's self-love or family or business or what have you, right? So this is the Affirmators deck. It's a pretty chunky deck. I do not remember the number of cards, but here you have it. Cardstock is pretty good. It's not very thick, but it's doable. It's gonna last. Now the next deck that I want to talk about is something I have done a very deep dive review about, which is the Songs of My Heart affirmation deck. You have this starter card over here, which is just a plain card, and this is what the back looks like, which is a turtle. And I will link the full walkthrough of this video below. It's almost an hour long, and it's really chock full of insights, so you should take a look. So this deck has been created by Justine from Hand Me That Pencil, who is a New Zealand based artist. And so Justine focuses on championing real life people and real life issues. So this deck focuses on showing us, yes, it does have some nudity in it, and so you should be, if you are planning on getting this deck, it is something that you should be aware of. And it is a fully feminine deck, wherein as in only female and female representing, female identifying characters are present in this deck. And one more thing is, this deck focuses on the merging of humans with nature, that is finding our connection with Mother Earth, and getting in sync with with Mother Earth. Like for example, like this card over here, you have a flower, you have the ocean, and you have the person, and so on. And you have, just like the Affirmators, you have the image, the main message, and an explanation of the message over here. So this deck is really, really empowering, because this is something, if you're feeling really down, or you want to remind yourself of some unique gift that you have, because for example, you have, so a lot of us face a lot of life circumstances which make us feel disempowered, or we feel worthless, or we feel less than. Cards like this show us that there is something that that inner strength that we have, that we may have ignored, or the fact that we have a gift to share. So I absolutely love how, because this is a depiction that you don't normally see even in oracle cards, right? So this is absolutely amazing. You have people of all skin tones, all races, all body shapes. You have Mother Nature, like I said. So this deck is absolutely phenomenal. And one of the best things that I love about this deck, the Songs of My Heart Oracle deck, is that it comes free of cost in terms of shipping. I don't want to say free of cost in terms of the deck is free, the deck is not free, but there are no shipping charges. All right. So Justine sends you this deck in a well-packed envelope. Don't worry, the deck comes perfectly fine. I live in India, and this came from New Zealand. It took 2.5 weeks to come, and it was in a pretty good condition, or rather I would say perfect condition. So I'm sorry, I'm just suffering from a lack of sleep right now, and so I'm just sort of like, I'm also really excited about talking about this deck. So this deck is absolutely phenomenal, and I think anyone who wants to work with affirmations, if you're female or female identifying, you would find this deck really nice. Even if you are not female identifying, I think this deck works really well if you like gentle affirmations. So that's one thing that I really want to talk about in terms of the how the affirmations are in this deck. It's very gently done. Now the creator also has another deck called the Naked Truth, which I do have on my wish list, and I hope to order it soon. That is more to the point, but this one is really, really gentle deck, right? So if you like gentle affirmations, or you want to get started with affirmations, then this is definitely the deck to go with. You also get these two blank affirmation cards where you can write your own affirmations if you want. So this is the Song of My Heart Oracle deck, and this is another deck that I highly recommend if you're looking to work with affirmations. All right. Now the final deck that I have is not exactly an affirmation deck, or rather the creator doesn't, position this as an affirmation deck. This is the Amenti Oracle. You may have seen it. It's quite famous because of its absolutely spectacular artwork. And I think the creator's name is Jennifer Sondini. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And this deck focuses on the 42 tenets of the goddess Ma'at, who is the wife of god Anubis. And so each of the 42 tenets, so basically this focuses on the Egyptian mythos of the weighing of the heart. So when a person passes away and they go to the underworld, so Anubis weighs your heart against a feather. This is called the feather of Ma'at. And Ma'at weighs your heart, that is the feather against the heart, based on whether you have lived your life according to these 42 ideals. If you have, then your heart weighs lighter than that feather and you are allowed to go to heaven. But if you haven't lived your life according to these 42 tenets, according to these 42 ideals, then your heart weighs higher than the feather, which means it is weighed down by guilt, by sin, by regret of not making the choices that were right for you, and therefore you will not be allowed into heaven, or rather you will be pushed into hell, so that you could understand the whole consequences of your mistake, and then pay for those mistakes that you made, or pay for those transgressions that you've made in your life, and then you're reborn once again to live your life again. So that's essentially what the the skeletal framework of the 42 ideals of Ma'at are about. So this deck is actually spectacular. For one is, of course, the amazing artwork. This gives me really sort of 80s disco vibe. It's just absolutely spectacular. I think you need to just buy this deck for the artwork alone, because not only is it beautiful, but it evokes a real sort of subconscious level. It evokes a lot of messaging, and each of these, as you can see, has a sentence written over here, which is the tenet of Ma'at, the ideal by which you live by, or you should live by. So in the sense of an affirmation, I think this deck is excellent if you want to align your actions every day or every week. So for example, let's say you pull this card for the day or for the week, and then it says, I act respectfully of others. So this could be your constant reminder for the day or for the week, or for however long you want to use this card for, to be respectful of your actions towards others. Be mindful of how your words are impacting others, and how your presence can be a boon and a blessing to other people instead of being a bane, right? So you can use this as, so in that sense, when I say it's an affirmation of your actions rather than an affirmative, empowering message to yourself. It's a confirmation and a focused and mindful reality of your situation, where you're actually acting in accordance with these tenets, right? So in that sense, I find this deck to be really amazing. You can take a picture of this card while you go to work, or maybe even carry this card with you, so that whenever you feel like you're at a crossroads when you're interacting with people, when you're making decisions, you can just look at this card and then just remind yourself about how you have chosen to act today, how you are choosing to align your actions, your decisions, your thoughts, your mindsets, absolutely everything. And this deck, the quality of the card is amazing. It's absolutely smooth, matte, I think, and this is it's very, very thick. I absolutely love the cardstock, and just look at how gorgeous the back is. And the booklet, I'm not going to show you the booklet right now, but the booklet by itself makes for such an amazing read. You know how most tarot and oracle booklets are just like an accompanying thing, wherein you have just the regular message, and you want to, if you feel like supplementing your cards with, or your intuition with the deck, with the book, you pick it up. This booklet, the book that comes with your mentee oracle, is a standalone book. You could just read the book by itself even without the cards. It's absolutely stunning. There's so much wisdom over there. The creator of this deck not only goes into the Egyptian philosophies, but they also go into the Hermetic, Kabbalistic philosophies, the mythologies, and they also go into how these ideals, these tenets can be practiced in our day-to-day life, right? And they also go into how these tenets, you know, were being applied by the creator themselves, and how we can apply these in our lives as well. And I think that the guidebook deserves a, you know front to back read multiple times because of just how amazing it is. And just look at how amazing this artwork is, right? I think of all three decks that I showed you, I think this must be my favorite in terms of artwork. But I love all three decks in terms of the affirmations that they provide, because it is just spectacular. They all perform their own singular roles, and I think anyone can benefit from having these decks. So if you're really confused about which deck you need to have, I think I can provide some guidance. If this resonates, please do take it. Otherwise, uh, you can leave it. Yeah. So this is ideal if you want to live more mindfully these days, and you want a deck that can literally be your compass guiding you towards your north, right? And it should be your internal guidance that leads you towards making your best decisions, leading your best life. Then in that case, then the Amenti Oracle is the best, because it has quite literally to the point actionable insights, and which you can see, which you can remember, which you can digest, and you can really practice these, right? You can practice these. So these are excellent if you want to make your life more mindful and lead your life more mindfully, right? Now, the affirmators deck is something, for example, I would recommend to people if you're feeling, really emotionally charged and at a very vulnerable space. You feel like you're being attacked by someone, or you feel very powerless, and you want to empower yourself. You want to remind yourself that sometimes things can be messy, but you know what, everything's going to be fine. So these are amazing to read because they're really funny, like I said, and but they're also extremely insightful. So when you're feeling really upset or emotionally vulnerable, then these cards can bring a smile to your face and can really turn that frown upside down and make you really feel happy and light-hearted. So this is definitely something for your, to feel good deck that you can just keep reading, and you can keep it up on your desk. You can paste all of these cards on your walls, and you can just keep reading them every day. They're going to really turn that frown upside down and really make you feel better. So if you're looking for a feel good affirmation deck, and you don't really mind if it doesn't focus too much on mindful action, then this is something that you should definitely pick up. Because, and I would actually recommend that this be your first affirmation deck generally, because it's really that good. And once your mood is really better, then you'll find that you're making better decisions when your mood is sort of more stabilized, right? And then finally, this deck, the Song of My Heart Oracle deck, is something that I would also recommend if you are particularly facing issues of body image, or you're really questioning your contribution to your life, or to others' lives, and you want to remind yourself of the gifts that you possess, right? Because each of these cards have, like, for example, I cultivate a safe harbor. Now, this card in itself is so wonderful for you to know what your unique gift to the world is. And just like the Amenti, you can actually use this deck to sort of cultivate these habits, right? To become the to embody the energy of these cards. So I voice my needs, you can actually follow this advice, right? And so this deck is absolutely amazing for both in terms of knowing and affirming your own value to yourself and to other people's lives, plus also to mindfully cultivate whatever message that is there over here. And unlike the Amenti Oracle, which is a lot more direct in its approach, this deck is extremely gentle, and it doesn't, I feel like this is a very non-judgmental deck, right? It's perfect for people who feel emotionally raw and vulnerable, and who want to a safe space to explore their emotions. And I would definitely recommend this deck. The card stock is alright. It's a little thin, 300 GSM. I personally don't like this card stock, but you know what? It's going to last. I've had this for quite some time, and it's in near perfect condition, and the artwork is absolutely stunning. So this is a very gentle deck. So I would recommend for beginners who are working with affirmation decks for the very first time, I would recommend between the Song of My Heart and the Affirmators deck. Right? Oops, it's falling all over the place. Yep. So the Song of My Heart and the Affirmators deck are definitely two decks that I would recommend to beginners, because these are really gentle and these are the perfect place to start. And once you are done with these, then you can actually go into the more challenging aspects of how you can actively contribute to creating a better life for yourself and for others through the more direct advice of the Amenti Oracle, right? So these three decks are my top picks for the best affirmation decks around. So give them a try, and you're gonna find the Amenti Oracle and the Affirmators deck on Amazon as well if you want to purchase those through Amazon. They also have their own websites, but the Song of My Heart Oracle deck is by the creator of Hand Me That Pencil. You can search for her on Etsy. It's called Hand Me That Pencil. So yeah, take a look. Do you have any other affirmation decks that you really love to use and which you would recommend? Because I love collecting affirmation decks. So pop in your comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day.